from the BBC World Service in association with ABC and All India Radio. This is Stumped.
Hello and welcome to Stumped, your intercontinental hit of news, features and debate from the quirky world of cricket. I'm Alison Mitchell in London. I've just completed a road trip from London to Birmingham, across to Chelmsford and back again with the international cricket schedule, including England's women, and managing to steer clear of COVID so far, whilst many members of the England men's team haven't, and now a member of the India men's team as well over here reported on. But it's a very strange time in the UK with COVID cases rising high and the Prime Minister about to lift restrictions and the potential for disruption. Just huge and a big concern.
Yes, it's Jim Maxwell in Sydney, still in the old lockdown. Even Victoria's gone back into lockdown. And we need something to cheer us up. And Ash Barty did that by winning at Wimbledon. That was fantastic. And then Min Woo Lee won the Scottish Open. Who knows, he might win the British Open. And guess what? The Australian cricket team even had a win in the West Indies. So things are really looking up.
Well, sorry to remind you, Jim, but do I remember correctly that how did the rugby go?
Oh, well, look, it wasn't
Don't burst his bubble.
All right, sorry about that. Hello, everybody. This is Charu Sharma for All India Radio. I'm still in Sri Lanka at the Gold Face Hotel, magnificent property. We're in a better shape now because from quarantine, we've moved ahead, as it were, into a bubble, so we can move around a bit now. But it's all very sad that news about COVID keeps popping up from every part of the world. And Alison, as you mentioned, with the other Indian team in the UK, I'm waiting for the other Indian team to begin its white ball series against Sri Lanka. That'll happen very soon now. But sadly, of course, I kept a very close eye on the Indian women's team in the UK, and that left me a touch disappointed when they could not end with a win.
It was a bit of an up and down series. We'll talk about that in the show as well with India's women. But first, on Stumped. In the wake of the death of the African-American man George Floyd, the West Indies great Michael Holding and former England bat Ebony Rainford-Brent spoke on air about racial injustice and diversity, which went viral, having resonated with millions of people across the world. Some of those people who saw the clip had no interest or knowledge of cricket in particular and no idea who Michael Holding was, but it introduced Holding to a whole new audience. He's since written a book, Why We Kneel, How We Rise. And I'm delighted to say that Mikey joins us now to talk about it. Mikey, it's great to see you and to have you with us. How are you?
I'm fine, thanks. I'm good to be with you.
Good, good. I was in Southampton at that time, and I remember how raw and passionate it was for you. That tape that we saw, first of all, in the programme that day during the rain break had been pre-recorded. But can you describe and recall, what happened after that, when you were given free rein to speak?
It just came pouring out, Ali. People said to me afterwards that they didn't know that I felt that way about the entire situation. And my response was, well, I was never asked. This is something that has been inside of me for decades. The treatment of black people and people of colour in general. Given the opportunity to talk about it, I spoke. I want people to know exactly how I felt and what has been going on in the world with this injustice.
It feels particularly relevant that we're talking to you about it now, in this current climate, with events of the last week, the racist abuse that's happened online directed at the three footballers, Marcus Rashford, Jadon Sancho and Bukayo Saka, the three young black players who missed penalties in the final of the European Championships. I mean, how have you felt about that, particularly in the context of the piece of work you've just produced?
Well, Ali, as I've said to people, you'll never get rid of racism, just like you'll never get rid of crime. But the more you punish the racists and the more people come out and speak up against it, the less you will have. And that is what I'm hoping for. I'm hoping that the racists will just be outnumbered and in such numbers that they'll become irrelevant. And if we can do that, just like if we can reduce crime to a minimum, society will be better off. And that's all I'm hoping for. I'm hoping that these people who posted those racist remarks on social media are in the minority. And I believe that they are. I think social media has just amplified those people's ignorance and amplified their voices. When people realize that there are consequences to those actions, they'll go back under the rocks from which they came.
Well, we need to keep that hope going, Mikey. Hi, this is Charu Sharma from India.
Hi,
We're in
Charu.
Sri Lanka right now. Thanks so much for joining us. Your speech, your thoughts, your book is going to be very important for millions of people around the world. So thank you for doing that. Mikey, one of the most important, or certainly the quickest forms of communication these days, and you just touched upon a short while back, is social media. Now, what can they possibly do to educate the rights and wrongs of the action of people who say all sorts of things on social media? Is it too big an ocean now to actually control?
No, I don't think it's too big an ocean, Charu. I think what has to be done is people have to be educated so that they do not post those racist things. People post those things because they believe that they're superior. There's this belief that one race is superior to another. If we can educate the people to know that there is no such thing as any master race or one race superior to the other, they'll understand that what they are thinking is false. What they are thinking is what has been taught to them.
Yeah, you make an important point. But you did also say, Mikey, that it was pathetic that the English cricket team took to the knee in just that first series against the West Indies last year was. So do you feel that there's something that teams should do, well, indefinitely, should we say, the sporting world, or at least in cricket?
Charu, I don't want to be telling people what they should do, but when you take an action, you tell me what you are doing. And the press release that they put out after Stop Taking the Knee was even more damning than Stop Taking the Knee. The official press release, Charu, said they took the knee in respect of their visitors. What that tells me is, if it was a white team, they would not have taken the knee. No, that is pure ignorance. Their press release, I don't know who was responsible for it, but it makes things worse as far as I am concerned. If you believe in something, you support it. The worldwide accepted gesture of supporting the fact, I'm not talking about any political movement, the fact that Black Lives Matter is to take a knee.
Got to keep it going. Mikey, what more can our sport, what more can cricket do? Because can it learn from other sports? For instance, in the NFL, there's the Rooney Rule, which you may know is interviewing people of various diverse backgrounds for various positions. Can cricket do more which is practical, which is visible? Well,
Charu, that Rooney Rule in America, I am not one who supports things like that. I believe in going to the root of the situation. I don't believe in fixing things at the top. I believe in going to the root and trying to solve the situation at the root, meaning educating people that eventually you'll have a level playing field. I don't expect overnight fixes, and that is what I think these legislations try to do. I don't believe in quick fixes. I believe in long-term plans, long-term solutions. And as I don't expect to be around when it happens, but that doesn't matter to me. I'm not a selfish person looking for things to happen in my eyesight. I'm hoping for better things in the future. And if it is a long-term solution, it works better than quick fixes.
Hi, Mikey. Jim Maxwell here in Sydney.
Hi, Jimbo. How are you?
I'm very well, despite the lockdown we're having here. But
yes, I heard about it.
I just wanted to talk a little bit more about the passion and conviction you bring to this, because you've created the awareness that's needed. But I'll do it in an illustrative way by mentioning the Australian World Cup winner, Ashley Gardner, has been on Stumped, talking about her Indigenous background and how she instigated an education program for the Australian women's team to learn about different cultures. What does it take to instigate change? And should it be the diverse players in teams who start those conversations?
They can start the conversation, Jimbo, but one would hope that others will join in. When a journalist said to Thierry Henry that if he was abused by someone in the stands when he was playing on the field, if he would walk off the field. And Thierry Henry said, don't ask me that. Ask my white teammate that if he would walk off the field to support me. So, okay, black people coming out and people of color and indigenous people coming out and talking, that is fine. But if they do not get the support of others, it goes nowhere. And that is what we need. This thing has to be done hand in hand. It can't be one side of the equation. It has to be both sides of the equation coming together and solving the problem.
So you've had some contributions from giants across the world of sport, including Naomi Osaka, Usain Bolt, and the former Aussie rules player Adam Goods. How important was their stories were heard?
Very important, Jimbo, because what I'm trying to do and what I have tried to do is to show people that irrespective of what part of the world you live in, irrespective of your background, irrespective of how rich you are, how famous you are, once you have dark skin, you are a victim and you can be a victim. And that is why those people were involved in the book.
And on cricket then, Mikey, Most recently, we had the incidents of the historical tweets, racist and sexist in nature, from Ollie Robinson. What did you make of the way the ECB dealt with that? And I guess some steps have been taken subsequently. I've just seen, even today, an announcement that the PCA will be starting training specifically in social media abuse, the impact that can have. But what did you make of the Ollie Robinson episode?
I think the ECB handled it very well. The process that they went through, Ali, I think was correct. Someone like that, you have to suspend them because you don't want them to continue playing. And then when you're doing your investigation, you find a lot of bad things that you thought to yourself would not have been there, or then come to embarrass you when you have this person continue representing you. So they did the right thing by suspending him, doing the investigation, and then mete out the appropriate punishment that they thought was necessary.
But certainly the book is an education, and I've already started it and got a good way through it, and there's a lot that I've learned from it, and I know anyone who reads it is going to learn, as did you yourself, even as you said in your own research. So thank you for writing it. Thank you for sharing your experiences with us on Stumped as well, and can't wait to see you at the Test Series with India, back in the Combox.
Definitely, that's where I belong.
Thank you, Mikey. Great to have you on.
Thank you. Take care.
So that's Michael Holding, cricket legend and now author of Why We Kneel, How We Rise.
From the BBC World Service, this is Stumped on All India Radio.
Well, this time next week, the latest English cricket revolution starts. The talking will have stopped and the action will have got underway in the 100. But the ECB's new tournament's already been hit by COVID-19 issues, first with numerous big names pulling out on both the men's and women's side. And now fear that England's male test players could put the India Test Series at risk if they whiz around the country playing in this tournament at a time when the government's dropping all social distancing, big crowds are expected in, and COVID cases are becoming rife again. And the issue, as we saw it with the England men's one-day squad, is that a few positive cases from the 100 means multiple players could be forced into isolation as close contacts. If that includes some of the test players, then the series starting August the 4th would be in jeopardy. And the series is thought to be worth, £100 million to the ECB. It's huge, Charu. Of course, another risk to the test series is Indian players testing positive. And we've already had one such case with Rishabh Pant.
Well, my head continues to reel, Alison. I mean, where are we going with this whole pandemic and the discovery of positive cases and what it does to a whole team or to a whole country? I mean, how seriously do we take the fact that one may be slightly asymptomatic and having a virus and that derails the whole process of 100 million? I'm not sure. Of course, they will dig into why Rishabh Pant got his positive reading. I don't know whether, of course, in the UK, as we know, things had opened out quite a bit. I mean, are they really to blame? Were they in a full quarantine situation? Were they in a bubble or allowed to go out? If they were allowed to go out, then you can't pick up the virus. So if somebody has been tested positive, I think the others need to be tested immediately and allowed to carry on with it. Because to stop everything, to stop all the wheels at that point of time might be a little excessive. Please, let's continue with sport because, that's what they're there for. Unless the positive cases are leading to some extreme discomfort or some fatal, outcome, God forbid.
The problem is, the government legislation is that you must, if you're a close contact, you must self-isolate for 10 days. And that legislation remains in place. I think it's only August or the 19th off the top of my head where that is likely to change. That takes in, the first two tests of the summer where this sort of snap, isolation for close contacts will still be in place. And as you mentioned, India do have an enlarged squad to cover for a couple of players missing. But if what happened with the England team, a whole swathe have to go, you can't just snap your fingers and call up new players. And the other thing, Charu, is that the IPL starts 6 days after the last test match in England. And India wouldn't want to afford any of their players missing the IPL. And could you see a scenario at all where India say, we actually want out of this test series to protect the IPL?
Well, I hope not. Not for the ECB's sake. I don't think they'll make too many friends in this situation. But no, I see it carry on. You mentioned that the tour could be 100 million. I think the IPL is worth a lot more in case it gets shifted or cancelled, the second part of it. So, no, I think that they'll work as hard as possible to keep it all going. Yes, there could be a few positive cases as we go along, in the next few weeks, months. But the number of people in the IPL and even now on the tour are so many that I do hope once again that maybe I don't know how to say this because it might sound cavalier or a little careless, but take care of the positive cases, but let's not have the wheel of sport just come to a grinding halt, because, there's so many more people involved. And if you take a look at the percentages, you've got to let the whole juggernaut carry on.
To finish up with, I want to talk about the India-England women's multi-format series, which is now concluded, and England won the deciding T20 at Chelmsford. That was after an unbeaten 89 from Danny Wyatt, who surged back into form after being left out of the one-day squad. A bit of an up-and-down series, starting with the Test, though, which had plenty of highlights. India could only tie overall, even if they'd won the last game, as it was the England victory. But how have their performances been received back home in India?
Let's put this in perspective, because I certainly kept a very close eye on the series, very fond of the Indian women's team and their progress. Let's not be too critical, because they came into the series not having played very much at all for a long period of time. So considering that, they haven't done too badly. They've discovered a couple of new stars. And to just put a little bit of spotlight where it deserves, they need desperately a decent left-arm orthodox spinner. They need much better running between the wickets. They've left so many runs out there because they couldn't run quickly enough. In the infield, if the ball goes to a fielder, no run ever. In the outfield, almost never twos. But also very disappointing, Harmanpreet Kaur. She got a couple of small knocks here, there, and the other, but she's a world beater. She's a match winner and did very little. I wonder what's wrong with her. If I remember correctly, maybe she had COVID some time back and hasn't fully recovered. I'm not so sure. But Smriti Mandana, so good. And of course, young Shefali, she was up and down, but huge talent for India. And Harleen Dale, that catch will go down in the history of women's cricket, just fabulous. Yeah. So there was high points, but a disappointing end, because they built a pretty good total in that last T20. The bowling is underdone at this point of time. So a little disappointing, that final finish. But if you take into account that they haven't played much at all, well done, the Indian girls. And of course, English girls, better still. Congratulations.
Well, that's all we've got time for on this week's Stumped on All India Radio. So thanks to Charu Sharma and Jim Maxwell, and to you all for listening. And don't forget, you can keep in touch with the show throughout the week. We're at BBCWS Sport, and use the hashtag BBC Stumped. In the meantime, stay safe, and we'll see you next time. Bye for now.
Stumped is a BBC sport production for the BBC World Service, in association with the Australian Broadcasting Corporation and All India Radio.